All right, so we're going to finish the chapter 2 work. Now we're going to be working on chapter 2. We're going to be working on solving linear inequalities in one variable. Okay, so the most important one from that is probably the first one. So problem number 20. So on number 20, it was negative 6x plus 36 is greater than or equal to negative 6. When you see the inequality, you're supposed to be reminded that you sometimes need to reverse the inequality symbol. You do that when you're multiplying or dividing, must reverse inequality symbol. If multiplying or dividing by a negative number. You also have to graph on a number line and write answer in interval notation, which is the parenthesis bracket thing. So you got to remember that kind of stuff. Okay. All right, so that right there should go through your head when you see an inequality symbol. The process for getting the x by itself here is going to be the same as with an equation. We're going to subtract 36. When you do, you're left with negative 6x on the left and negative 42 on the right, and you weren't dividing or multiplying by anything, so the inequality symbol continues to be greater than or equal to. But at this point, you need to divide by negative 6, so that's going to reverse that inequality symbol, and you're going to have x is less than or equal to 7. So in order to remain true, because we were dividing by a negative, the inequality symbol has to be reversed. Okay? Doesn't have anything to do with the sign of the number on top. It has to do with what you had to divide by. So now we're going to put that on a number line. So we have to think about the solutions here are less than 7. So they're this way. And notice that when the x is in its usual spot, the way you shade is in the direction this is pointing. So you're going to go to the left of 7. And then because of the or equal to here, we know it's going to be a bracket. That's what makes it a bracket. And graph first. That's the other little tip that's kind of aggravating. My math lab has you do the interval first. You need to graph first because the interval notation comes from the fact that the left side of the shaded region is negative infinity. The right side of the shaded region is 7. And interval notation is just a shortcut, a shorthand for the graph. So if you'll do the graph first, you'll be more likely to get it correct. So that right there is getting at the idea of when the inequality needs to be reversed, okay? All right, and then 21 has variables on both sides. You still work it just like you would an equation. 22, it has a 3-part inequality. Make sure I got the or equal to on that. Okay, it's a 3-part inequality. This is 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts, and the variable is going to be in the middle. And the only thing you're going to touch is the 2 and the 4 in the middle. You're not going to do anything with the negative 2 and the 6 on the outside. So don't add 2 or subtract 6. It all is trying to get that x by itself in the middle. So we have x here. So when you're looking at this, you would take away the 4. And if you're going to do that in that part, you do it to all 3 parts, including that one on the left. That's the one people forget about. So that means negative 6 is less than 2x. Do that back in blue. So that's negative 6 is less than 2x is less than or equal to 2. Then at that point, we're going to divide by 2. to get the x by itself, but if we do, we have to divide all three parts by 2. So then this becomes -3 is less than x is less than or equal to 1. All right, and then do not separate this. People are interpreting this separate from that and then winding up having both arrows pointing to the left, which is not accurate. This just means x is between -3 and 1, including the 1. So your solutions, x is really solutions. The solutions are between -3 and 1. So if we think about that, here's a number line. -3 would be to the left of 1. The solutions are numbers like -2, like 0, like -1. -3 doesn't have the or equal to, but 1 does. So the solutions are from -3 to 1. Okay, and that would be the end of 22. Okay. All right, let's look at 23. 23 has 2 inequalities. They're both kind of simple ones. The individual inequalities are kind of simple, but they're connected by that word or. So when I see or and, I'm thinking about that job ad, job posting. You have experience and a degree, or you have experience or a degree. Okay. What you do though is you get each inequality so that you have it solved for x individually. So we added 3 there, and we'll get x is bigger than 6. Let me get back to my blue. Okay. Then over here, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and we're going to wind up with x is less than -1. The inequality is not going to flip on either of these because we're not having to divide on that. I'm not thinking about the word or yet. I'm thinking about these 2 individual inequalities. I want to put -1 and 6 in the right spots on my number line and just treat these 2 things separately. All right, x bigger than 6 would mean you'd have to be to the right of 6. X less than -1 means you'd have to be to the left of -1. Both of them are strictly, have no or equal to under them, so they're parentheses. Now I'm going to consider the word. Experience or a degree. You only have to have one or the other. So these guys get an interview and these guys get an interview. Parenthesis, parenthesis. So this one is the one where you're going to have 2 different intervals. You're going to have -infinity to -1. Remember to do them from left to right. -infinity to -1. Over here, we're going to have 6 to +infinity. And there's 2 of them, so we hook them together with that union symbol. And that would be your interval notation. Okay. All right, so that kind of finishes up the chapter 2 material. I do want to let's do one what if. Let's just make one up. What if we had, x minus 3 was, what if it was x minus 3 is less than 3, and let's switch this one around, and x plus 3 is greater than 2. Let's see what would happen if we just kind of did a what if. It was a little different. We would have added 3. We would have had x less than 6. Over here, we would have subtracted 3 and had x greater than -1. So this is -1, this is 6. So we would have been greater than -1 is this guy. Less than 6 would be this guy. And then it was the word and, which means you have to have the degree and also the experience. So the only people who have that are here, because that's where the overlap is happening. You see that? So from -1 to 6 would be your answer on that one. So with the and, you need the overlap. With the or, you can have one, the other, or both. You don't have to have both. You can have one, the other, or both.